Unfortunately, we have come to the last movie in the Columbia Noir set, which is Murder by Contract, which was released in 1958, directed by Irving Lerner, and this was a really oddball movie. Almost from the start, the first thing that struck me about this movie was the score. This guitar score that feels sometimes a little bit quirky and strange and almost leans into the comedic at certain points was a wonderful addition, and one that constantly made me reassess the images that I was seeing along with this. And we're introduced at the start to Vincent Edwards, who plays Claude, a man who has a dream, a simple dream of buying a house that he wants, but he knows that he's not going to make enough money, and it'll take numerous years to get enough money to actually pay for it. So he decides to become a contract killer, and he does this by going to a meeting, and you see very early on that Claude is a smart, measured man. He is most definitely psychopathic. He has this innate ability to disassociate himself from the crimes that he's committing by looking at his goal, looking at getting his house. And at the start of the movie, we start to see several scenes of him being alone in his flat as time passes by, waiting on the call for his job, and then going out and completing a couple of jobs. There's one particular moment at a barber shop at the start where we realise that everybody's been tied up and gagged. Claude is there waiting on his mark to come in to kill him, and it is a wonderfully staged set piece in the movie. Takes its time, doesn't need to be rushed, knows that the viewer is along with it, and just creates this kind of when is it going to happen? We know that this guy is going to die, and it's just how about he does it. There's even a moment where Claude picks up something and is thinking about using that as a murder weapon, although nothing's said, and decides to put it back down and choose another one. And the whole crux of this movie comes about a third of the way in. When Claude is moving his way up the ladder, he's been getting a little bit of power and reputation, and is starting to get enough money to get towards his goal, when he's tasked with going to California to complete a job. When he gets there, he discovers that, well, at least to kill a woman, which he's not really particularly happy about, although he is still willing to do it, and that she is heavily guarded by the police force, as she is going to be a key witness in a court case, and he has to take her out. And it then becomes almost a comedy of errors as Claude tries to figure out a way of taking her down, but it always backfires in one way or another, and he's starting to feel that the job is jinxed, and sees this idea of fate and tempting it with completing this job. Of course, he's pressurized by the two guys that are kind of the middleman between Claude and the boss of this job, and you get this strong idea of fate. Like I said, is he believes that this job is jinxed and that it's going to be the end of him, and is the fact that he's believing that going to make it true, or is it already predetermined? It's a little bit of subtext within the movie. There are some really violent sequences within this one which are shocking, rather realistic. They don't feel as silly as some other fight scenes in movies similar of this time. There is a certain brutality to it. There's a moment where Claude snaps and he's killing someone in a rather vicious manner, just beating them to death. And this movie was a real oddball. I really liked this one. I liked it because of its unusual tone for its time, its unusual portrayal of the character of Claude. I thought Vince Edwards gave it a masterful performance, very stilted, very controlled, measured, doesn't speak a lot when he does speak. He is very articulate and very smart with it. You can see him getting a little bit bigger, bolder and brasher as his killing career is taking off. And with that score that kind of plays with the tone, it makes a very fun and unusual movie that leads to a finale which is rather suspenseful, filled with tense, shocking, and where you're not really too sure, or I wasn't, what I wanted to happen. No, I liked the character of Vince, but he couldn't go on because he was just a murdering machine. And the woman who is tasked to be killed, we haven't spent much time with her, but you know she's a real innocent and you don't want her to die, but this thing has to play out in one way or another. And the way it plays out was a little bit surprising, but enjoyable. Murder by Contract is vying for my favourite from this box set. I really enjoyed this one a lot, and I would love to know your thoughts on this one. Now, this comes with an introduction by Martin Scorsese. Now, it's 5 minutes, but I could listen to this guy talk about film for hours. Somebody needs to get that recorded and sorted for us film fans, because he's so knowledgeable. He sees angles that maybe the average movie reviewer or film fan wouldn't see, and it's just awesome to hear him talk about it. There is the 18-minute Swedes in America, directed by Irvin Lerner and presented by Ingmar Bergman, and it is interesting. It's one of those kind of things I've watched, I won't go back to again. And of course, the Three Stooges short, Violence is the Word for Curly, and I really liked this one. This was a great Three Stooges short. There's a particularly fun singing sequence which was just so entertaining, and the highlight of all the Three Stooges shorts for me was on this disc. This was my favourite one of them all. Like I said, I'd love to know your thoughts on this movie, this amazing movie. Let me know in the comment box below. I'll see you next time on Man v Film.